My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
When we started writing our thoughts down on paper, it opened up endless possibilities. Ideas could grow beyond the borders of the mind, and it changed the world. Somewhere along the way, we lost touch with paper, distracted by devices made for every purpose except thinking and focus. On edge, waiting for the next notification. But what if new technology didn't pull us away from paper, but brought us closer to it? Listen. That's not paper. It's the sound of the new Remarkable Paper Pro, rewriting the future. A paper tablet with a true-color ink display, gentle reading light, and unheard-of tactility, with digital features for taking notes, thinking, and organizing, without any distractions. Paper is about to change the world again. Get your paper tablet at remarkable.com today.
So attention cricket clubs and cricketing family, are you ready to step up to the crease and make a long-lasting impact on your club's legacy? Listen up, we've got something special for you. Introducing Fund It Now, the revolutionary fundraising platform that's changing the game for cricket clubs everywhere. With Fund It Now, clubs of all sizes can create a lasting legacy by selling personalised plaques to their passionate members, supporters and cricket club family.
That's right, Livo. Fund It Now has already left its mark on some of cricket's most iconic venues like Lords, the home of cricket, Somerset County Cricket Club, and with projects such as the Father Time Wall and Somerset Legends Wall.
There's the best part, Hugh. There are absolutely no upfront costs. Fundraising has never been more simple or accessible.
Imagine walking around your club's ground or up to the pavilion and seeing a bespoke wall of dedication, celebrating the history of your club and supporting its future with every plaque. It's like your club's very own shrine to the sport we all love.
And getting involved couldn't be easier. Simply visit Fund It Now's website at funditnow.co.uk to get started today, or drop them an email at info@funditnow.co.uk to learn more. It's time to rally your supporters and start raising money like never before. And don't forget to tell them you heard it from us at the Premier League Cricket Show.
So what are you waiting for? Join the ranks of clubs and grounds like Somerset County Cricket Club and Lords and make your mark on cricket history.
Visit Fund It Now today and start building your fundraising platform. That's funditnow.co.uk. Fund It Now, where passion meets purpose at your cricket club, and begin creating your own legacy. So welcome everybody to Premier League Cricket Show, and as is our wont at this time of year, we're going to have a chat with someone who he's got a book to flog. Let's be honest, Hugh, he's got a book to flog, but actually it's what the book's about that's really interesting. Our guest tonight, Hugh, are you ready for this? Is he the voice of Surrey, Gloucestershire, Somerset? He's been the voice of so many bloody counties this year. I'm not sure he knows where he's based himself. Dan Whiting, how you doing, mate?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me on. And I'm a wandering man. I'm a wandering, meandering man around the country.
So your LinkedIn page says you also do voiceover work or have done some voiceover work. So, I mean, anything to report there? You know, have you done like Postman Pat or, something exciting?
No,
like
I did a cricket game, actually, like a virtual reality, where you put the goggles on.
Oh, yeah.
And had to shout, "How's that?" and do a load of that sort of stuff. Which, if anyone's seen me play back over the years, they'll know that I've worked the umpires over the years. Let's say
it's very good. It's Postman Pat's on the horizon then.
Hopefully, yeah. I'm waiting for the call.
That's it.
Hey, before we get to the book, Dan, let's just tell everyone who doesn't know who you are. You have got a bit of cricket history playing yourself as well, haven't you? So, just tell everybody who you are for the listeners, because maybe we've got to get this right. You're a county cricket man. We're Premier League cricket people. Not everyone crosses over, do they?
No, they don't. I played for years in the Hertfordshire Cricket League for my club, Southgate Adelaide, who are based at the famous Walker Ground in North London. And yeah, I mean, Hertfordshire Cricket has produced a number of players into the first class game in recent years. Stephen Finn, Monty Panesar, Rob Keogh, Adam Rossington. Those guys have all come through the Hearts League. So yeah, I mean, I played there for years, and then I've just been involved. I started a blog called The Middle Stump, which is no longer, unfortunately. Got some work off the back of that. Got a book deal off the back of that. Did some commentary work with Dan Norcross and those guys at Test Match Sofa,
That can't
and
be.
then no, and then just sort of moved on really.
So you did some commentary work on Test Match Sofa, and would that have been the Norcross, and would Mr. Tarrant have been involved in that at some point as well?
It was Norcross. Atif Nawaz was there, who's just covered the Pakistan tour. Legside Lizzie did a little bit back then. Yeah, a lot of people who've sort of gone on to bigger and better things, perhaps.
Yeah, and I think that's what's happened over the last 10 years, isn't it? The way the game has done this and grown, there is more of a call for more commentators, more pundits, whatever you want to call them. More people to, second commentator. And as a consequence, you've done this year, and this is what the new book's about, rather a lot of county cricket, shall we say?
Yes, certainly have. I mean, a lot of people like to run county cricket down, but BBC have had 30 million hits this year, either on the radio or on their web page or whatever. So it's a hell of a lot, isn't it? It really is. A lot of people like to run the county game down, but I think there's more interest in it now than possibly ever before.
It's sort of a false economy, the way people sort of talk about it. You can't possibly consume first class cricket like a football match or a T20 match. It's impossible, but we all consume it, and sports fans throughout the country consume it all day in little bits for days on end, months on end, and you dip in, you dip out, you put on the commentary, which is fantastic. Now you jump into a live stream when something gets interesting, but you can't physically consume it in any greater detail than that because we've all got working lives and all the rest of it. But if you took that away, there'd be a huge hole in the heart of the English summer and the English sporting psyche.
Yeah, I think working from home's been a big part of that as well since lockdown. Back in the old days, you couldn't really, when your boss is looking over your shoulder, you can't really sort of have a look at wickets going on, but those people now, I always say that forget your Excel spreadsheets, I'm more about V Richards, V Marks, V Coley than V lookups. So yeah, there you go.
Well, that's a terrible joke.
Yeah, I might edit it. Don't worry. I think
I'm laughing
on there with the working from home bit, and me and Hugh we both do the same. 95% of my work is at home. Hugh's is the same. I've got my iPad in front of me right now, and there's always something on there. And during the summer, it's cricket. And I'm one of those ones you'll dip in and out of those different streams throughout the year, and you guys are starting to build up an amazing, not just following, but relationship with people on those streams, aren't you, Dan?
Yeah, certainly have, and it's been really good. I think it's been a revolution. I think it's a renaissance period for cricket with the streaming, and I think it's been really good for county cricket. And I think it's got a lot of people interested as well. And there's two trains of thought. Is it firstly stopping from people actually going to the game? I think not. I think it's the other way. I think it's actually getting people's interest going. And, Leicestershire, even they played India last year in a warm-up game, and they had something like 3 million people watching. And it's just, outrageous. We had Shakib Al-Hassan at Surrey for one game in that game against Somerset, and the figures went through the roof from Bangladesh. So, it goes to show there's a massive interest.
I don't think that this one game alone lark, I just think it's the biggest joke in county cricket, to be frank. So don't get me started on that one.
Well, it didn't work end particularly well, did it? So I think
no, exactly. I was quite pleased about. But was that the one Archie Vaughan had an absolute stormer in?
Yeah.
He was the best bowler of the show in that game, actually. He out-bowled Jack Leach, Shakib, and Cameron Steele. So, best spinner on show.
Absolutely. But it's the fact that we're talking about it says it all. We know the detail. We're listening to it. We're watching it. We're seeing these things. And I think you're right when you talk about, I love that word renaissance. I grew up in the 80s when county cricket was still decent, but there was definitely a 90s and 2000s period where it was under a, shall we say, a bit rockier. Without a shadow, it's on the up. I can't think of anywhere across the country where you don't see the crowds on the up and the streams on the up, is there?
No, I think everyone's sort of got the interest there, and I think it's been really good for the game. I think it's sort of rejuvenated people's interest because the written word now is dying, isn't it? You see the amount of press coverage in the papers; it's not great. So it's good that people can keep up to date without having to ring up one of those 0898 numbers like you used to from work back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, that's brought back memories. I used to ring an ice hockey line, and in fear of my parents' telephone bill, 50p a minute, and I suspect they just paid it very kindly, and they were happy that I was interested in. It was an 0898 to do with telephone, to do with ice hockey, and not certain other numbers that it could have been. But yeah, I think
I believe it was used for other purposes as well. But we won't go into that.
No, not today anyway. Definitely.
The shift in it's technology really that's driven it, and the affordability of technology, and the access to quality cameras, the streaming, obviously the broadband revolution, and that's constantly expanding, but it's so much cheaper now and so much better quality. What can be produced by a couple of students with a half decent camera? Well, no, it's a good camera, but it's it's a £1,000 camera, whereas 10 years ago that same quality production was 100,000 quid's worth of kit, and a satellite feed. Yeah. And it's wonderful. Yeah. I was talking to a cricket coach in Western Australia today, and he watches all of his charges games on the weekend. He's there jumping between the streams, and this is in grade cricket. And it's absolutely wonderful. And we do it all the time, don't we? And just jump in if we're talking to a player or we want to see what's going on the weekend. We'll jump into the feeds on club cricket. So, they don't have the multi-camera setups particularly, but obviously now with all the county game having these multi-camera setups, commentators, it's just made it better and better and better. But is there at some point, and it happened with Kent last year, was it, where they're going to say, well, we're going to start charging for this?
Yeah, I can see that happening. It does vary as well, like with the budgets of counties, the quality of production. So you look at Surrey or Lancashire and the counties who've got a few quid, their production is a lot better than, say, counties who are using maybe a couple of analyst cameras and that type of stuff. So it does vary hugely.
Yeah, it does. And I think what's going to happen in the coming years, though, is we are going to see those couple are going to grow. The Surreys and the Lancashires of this world are actually almost basically broadcasting TV quality, aren't they? What they're doing, they've got their little lounges that they sit in. Bumble goes up there with Paul Allerton and have a chat, etc. And they go that way forward. But you've said yourself that the written word is, as a consequence, maybe not quite as important, except for when it comes to, and that's what we're here to talk about in particular, books. Cricket books to this day. The amount of them that do bloody well is just incredible, isn't it, to say the least? We absolutely bring them in, and we've all got them on our shelves, and they're there for 10, 20 years and read them back. And that's why you're written this book again, I think, Dan, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I decided to write it because the two sides that I covered this season been Surrey, which I did 56 days for, and Gloucestershire, which I did 14 days for. Both won the biggest competitions in domestic cricket in the Vitality Blast and the County Championship. So I thought, let's get the memoirs down and see what I can do there.
Does that mean that the contract is already on its way to you for next season because they're thinking lucky charm?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, it's also a little bit about the precarious life of a freelance commentator as well, because I lost my job at Gloucestershire more or less this time last year. And that was due to Gloucestershire's financial constraints. I mean, they lost 1.2 million quid. Yeah. So they decided to dispense with the in-house commentary and take the BBC feed. And then guy who does Surrey hasn't been too well this year, Mark Church. So I've been stepping in for him. So Yeah, it's strange how things work out, isn't it?
Were you out there giving, with being so successful with your presence, were you out there giving a few batting tips, just, come on, Tom,
I
just
don't know
change your
about that.
back lift a bit, pull your hands in a bit tighter, you just, nicking off a bit too easy. Was that what was happening, or,
Well, sometimes you do have to sort of, if someone's played a really bad shot, you do have to dissect their technique a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's quite hard doing that when they've played a far better standard of cricket than you.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, it's an easy game from back in the commentary box, when you're not out there having to face, I don't know, Ajit Singh Dale at Gloucestershire winging it down at 90 miles an hour or whatever.
It is far easier, but at the same time, I'm a big believer that it's a bit like in golf. Tiger Woods, he might go and score 65 one day on St Andrews, but we all know the day after he's going to have an absolute mare and score 95 because it happens in golf. Yeah, and I think cricket's the same. We'll watch Joe Root. Yeah, I always use him as the example. Score more runs than anybody else on this bloody earth right now, frankly. But last year I was up Trent Bridge watching him going, if you play that reverse sweep one more time and fail, yeah, every 3 balls you played it, Joe. Come on now, lad. Because I wasn't commentating, but I was in my head. And if I'd have been on commentary, that's what I'd be saying. How difficult do you find that to not sort of jump in sometimes, Dan, and say those things?
Or judge. Yeah, you don't want to judge players, really, do you? It's not your job particularly.
No, you don't. But also, you've got to have a working relationship with these guys as well. So you can't put the boot in too much, especially when you're staying at the same hotel as them on away games as well. So you've got to be, a little bit careful. And also you're questioning with interviews at the end of the day as well. I mean, I didn't sort of tend to give too difficult questions. I mean, when you do Surrey and they're winning all the time, it tends to be quite easy. But I did have to interview Gareth Batty after they'd just lost to Hampshire after an innings and 278 runs. And I was thinking, I just don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. But he was actually all right. He was pretty cool about it.
And considering Gareth's, he's renowned for being a bit short every now and again, I think, isn't he, as well?
He can be, yeah, but he's all right. He just said, listen, you've got a job to do. I've got a job to do. Let's get on with it. So fair play, So
there's an interview at the end of the season with Derbyshire. We've got, is it David Lloyd, captain Derbyshire, isn't he? And he was interviewed by their in-house team. And it was he looked a broken man. He'd had a really tough season. And I think next season's looking a bit more cheerful for them. But, the interview was trying to be, he was the in-house interviewer. He obviously knew him very well. He was trying to be really nice. And poor old David, you could see the anguish finishing what had been a really difficult season. And whereas an outside commentator probably would have pressed harder, the in-house like yourself, has maybe that tendency to back off a little bit because you know them so well.
Yeah, I mean, I work in-house for Gloucestershire, but for Surrey, I've been working for BBC London. So it's two quite different things really as well. It's also different styles of commentary as well, because in Gloucestershire, I tend to work on the stream, but Surrey have got their own in-house stream. So I tend to do radio. So with radio commentary, you've got to keep talking. You've got to, keep filling the gaps. Whereas with streaming commentary, you can just let it breathe. You can just let the viewer watch the action.
It's more about the colour on the TV than it is on the radio, where I'm having to drive my car and listen to what's going on and understand that field. Whereas on the TV, you don't need to tell me where everyone's fielding because I can bloody well see it, pal, can't I? That's the difference.
Yeah, somebody told me once that with radio you're actually creating the picture from scratch, but with television you're just colouring in the picture that the viewer can see.
Yeah.
Well, Richie Benno back in the day, he'd hardly say a word, would he, Richie? It would just flow, and then he'd jump in, and then flow again, and then jump in. He was the king of the silence, was Richie Benno. I think grew up, as we probably all did. He was there, wasn't he, Richie? Right. Brilliant. Through the BBC years. Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, the best.
Had a ridiculously busy summer this year, Dan. For listeners who don't know, just tell me what a week to week would be like? The book's called Taking the Mic because that's what you've done. But actually, I think some of the travel that you've done has been taking the mic as well in a different way. Tell us what a normal, inverted commas, week might look like this year for you.
Yeah, well, I've done 80 days and 14,000 miles. So no doubt I'll probably have Greta Thunberg on my case at some point. But, yeah, I mean, it varies from whether you're doing 4-day cricket or T20 cricket. T20 cricket just goes mad. It's just, day here, there. Especially as I covered Gloucestershire in T20 stuff down in Bristol or Cheltenham. And then I was coming back for Surrey and I was going to, Canterbury or wherever really. So, I mean, that's really quite tough when the games come thick and fast or you might be in Cardiff at 11 o'clock at night waiting for Sam Curran to come out and give you an interview thinking, I'm not going to get home till 3 a.m, So, yeah, I mean, that's the tough bit. But it does vary whether you're doing 4-day cricket or the T20 season. The T20 season, I think, is harder because although they're shorter games, it's quite tough. I'll tell you what else is quite hard as well is the 50 over stuff, the Metro Bank, because you don't really get a break in that. You're actually commentating for 50 overs straight, whereas, in 4-day cricket, you tend to do 32 over sessions and then you get a break. Whereas, in 50 over cricket, often you're going right through. So that can be quite tough as well.
Which is the is it the first class stuff that's the favourite because it's a little bit more gentle?
I think so because like you can go into you can start telling a few anecdotes. It's a little bit slower. You can start going off on a tangent a little bit. Whereas I think in T20 cricket, because it's so fast flowing, you're just describing the action straight away.
Yeah, I think I could definitely vouch for that in terms of my limited commentary experience. This year alone, sat doing the NCCA versus Zimbabwe at West Bromwich Dartmouth. In very simple terms, beautiful 4-day game, telling anecdotes, have a bit of a laugh with the lads. We were getting players to come and sit with us, great. But then doing the club championship final at New Road, Worcester. Fair to say it was on the go all the time, wasn't it, Hugh?
I hid in the press room. So.
Exactly. He didn't come near the bloody...
I tell you what, it was a fair old feed there. I was quite happy with the food, yeah. So is the food, have you got a little record of the food in this book? I was pretty impressed with Worcestershire's food. Are we getting, have you got certain, spots that you prefer to go to because you're going to get a good feed?
Without a shadow of a doubt, yeah. We're lucky at the Oval. We get pretty well fed at the Oval. It tends to sort of vary and is in keeping with the type of area you're in. So like Bristol's quite an edgy city. You tend to get things like lamb tagine and couscous. Whereas you go to Essex and you get cheeseburger and chips. So
I'm trying to think. I was at Lancashire for Lancashire versus Worcestershire and stood next to Bumble eating beef stroganoff. I thought that's very non-Lancashire, that is. But it was
hearty grub, though. It's hearty grub, isn't it? It's cold up north, isn't it? You want something nice. Keep you going. Yeah.
Well, yeah, sod's law, it wasn't cold that day. It was bloody boiling. It was a short day, at the least. So, in terms of getting around these grounds, and you've been around the county, I think I commented on Twitter, I think there was 2 counties you didn't end up commentating on this year.
Yeah, I didn't do Derbyshire or Northants. Yeah. So just the way it worked out, I covered a lot of Division 1 cricket with Surrey. Yeah, I mean, they're Division 2 sides. And then I did white ball stuff for Gloucestershire, who are in the South group, and they're in the North group.
Yeah. So
although Northants, I don't think are overly happy about that, are they? But hey, what can you do?
You can't split the country in any which way to make it happy for everyone. But in terms of getting around all these counties, do you think that the vast travel that you've done this year has helped you in terms of where you're going to be as a freelancer over the next few years now? Because maybe when you were just in-house at Gloucester, you were in-house at Gloucester, whereas now you've been everywhere.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think also Surrey has been very good exposure for my career. We've been on BBC 5 Sports Extra quite a bit as well, so being on national radio. And I've likened it from going, no disrespect to Gloucestershire because I love them as a club, but it's like going from, say, Fulham to Manchester City, you know. So it's definitely sort of bigger and better exposure. However, saying that, you know, Gloucestershire, I worked for 2 years there doing all cricket down at Bristol or Cheltenham, all their home games.
Mhm.
And I fell in love with the place. I fell in love with the people down there, fell in love with the club. Whereas with Surrey, I've deliberately kept my distance, really.
Okay.
Just on the cricket, I mean, what is it going to take to knock Surrey off their perch? Is it feasible?
They're not infallible. I think if sides prepare spinning wickets, they struggle maybe a little bit. But they've got such a production line behind like their main stars. We saw it in the Metro Bank. You know, they've got Ollie Sykes coming through, Wisden Schoolboy Cricketer of the Year. They've got Josh Blake, who's a wonderful wicket-keeper batter, who's their third choice behind Folkes and Jamie Smith. So they've got, so much depth there. It's going to take a hell of a lot. And I think they're actually building a dynasty there.
How are they able to keep these players happy? You know,
that's the big question. That's their big question over the next few years, I think. I mean, we've already seen Geddes has left there to go to Middlesex at the end of the season. And I think there might be a few fringe players who, Conor McCur's another one who's gone to Notts, isn't he? Yeah. And I think there might be a few, over the next few years who just want regular cricket, want regular first team cricket.
Yeah, it's very difficult when, if you're sort of on trying to worm your way into that team and you've got that sort of powerhouse in front of you, and then a few of the England lads come back, or most of the England team come back, and then you're down the pecking order again. It's a tough one for a young player who's looking to crack pro cricket. And we're fortunate here; we've got Harry Moore coming through at Derbyshire, and he's been able to waltz into the first team at 16, which has been brilliant for him. But he isn't getting in the first team at Surrey at 16. So it just opens that door for him by being at one of the weaker counties. But those young players that maybe are very ambitious might find that somewhere else is an easier route to their end goals.
Yeah, definitely. I think in T20 cricket as well. I mean, they used two very different sides because they had a load away with the England World Cup side. So they had people like Chris Jordan, Will Jacks. So they used virtually two different sides through the competition. And the amount of players you've got to actually do research on with Surrey is a little bit of a pain as a commentator, shall we say.
Well, you talk about those two different sides, and there's an amazing article in today's Daily Telegraph, which gives it away when we're recording this for people who are listening. Amazing article from Tim Wigmore about cricket and what's happened to it with all of these franchises around the world. I almost read it twice. I thought it was that good an article by Tim. But what was missing in that article, funnily enough, with all of these franchise cricket around the world, was actually it didn't overlay the county cricket scene. It had the Vitality Blast in there, but didn't overlay the county cricket scene as well. And these clubs have got to have 2-3 squads almost now. And Hampshire are going out to bloody Guyana in a couple of weeks' time to play in a tournament there, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think we're also going to see the loan system come in as well. Lad up at Derbyshire, Zach Chappell, came to Gloucestershire on loan, and he's a lovely lad. In fact, at Gloucestershire, he's known as Zach Chappell because they misspelled his name on the back of his shirt and only put one P in there. So but no, I mean, there's been some lovely stories. There's one in the book actually. I went to rugby school, which is a gorgeous venue, and I saw a really good game of cricket there. Warwickshire got 311. Surrey responded with 308, and it was a sellout. The mayor of Rugby was there, and I met him, and I said, "That's a lovely bit of bling you've got around your neck there with his chain." I said, "But Kemar's got a bigger one back in South London."
Absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of your job, isn't it? You can get around these, not just the big grounds. I mean, let's be honest, commentator at the Oval week in, week out, as you've done through the year, there ain't many better grounds in the country for what that's got. I don't know about atmosphere. I still think there's one or two that are slightly better, but you've actually got to go not just to the Oval, but as you say, to rugby and to some of the outgrounds. It's a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, rugby was good. Kibworth was lovely, actually. Went there in Leicestershire.
Yeah.
We went there the day after the Graham Thorpe news had broken.
Right.
And I thought Leicestershire as a club handled it really well.
Mm-hmm.
And Kibworth, really sensitively, and I thought they handled it beautifully, actually. And obviously Cheltenham, where I've worked for a number of years as well, which is one of my favourite grounds in the world, actually.
I was going to ask that question. Is that the one? I had a feeling you might get there. Is that the one in terms of outgrounds that you'd say is right at the top for you?
I think so. Just the unique atmosphere. It's got, you're interviewing people in the marquees before play. I've interviewed people like Mike Proctor, Courtney Walsh there. It's always a decent crowd, and it's just gorgeous with the chapel at one end and, the sort of the hill overlooking it. And it's just a beautiful venue. It really is.
Just looking back on your other work, there's been a few other books. This is your fifth book, I believe.
Sixth, yeah.
Sixth book. There we go. There's a couple that jumped out to me: the definitive guide to club cricket and the exhaustive guide to club cricket. I can't speak. Exhaustive guide to club cricket. There's two that I immediately want to buy, and immediately want to read. I think they're maybe 10 years ago you've written those. What was were you involved in cricket commentary at that point, or is that your first foray into?
I was doing bits and pieces on Test Match Sofa, but those are more about the guys you get in every cricket club, like the bent umpire, the weirdo scorer, the third 11 captain who's scrambling around for players on a Saturday morning.
Sorry, do you know Wirksworth Cricket Club?
And I think they were so popular because every club had these characters in them. And people could relate to them in their own club. So, it sort of, they went down quite well. And Jack Brooks wrote the foreword for the definitive guide because he'd come from a club cricket background, and he signed it off as Brooksy, the glorified clubby. Yeah. And then John Simpson wrote for the exhaustive guide, who came up through Ramsbottom Cricket Club in the Lancashire League. And he told some good stories in there. Actually, there's a guy when he was about 8 or 9 years old, and he'd have to run around and get this bloke's port and brandy and leave them on the sight screen for him. And he was the best bowler in the league, a slow left armer. And one day they had a semi-final of the Lancashire League Cup, and they wouldn't let him drink, and he bowled like an absolute drain. So in the final, they let him drink, and he took a 5 for him as man of the match. So, yeah.
Scott Oliver's book talks about John Simpson's dad taking Shane Warne for multiple falls in his first ever over in club Lancashire League cricket. So, yeah.
Yeah, and told him to go forth and multiply, I believe. And Warney said to him, "You don't want to go sweeping the leg spinner, mate." So, yeah.
On the slide, the stories that your career is bringing you now. I mean, there's got to be a call for a lot of after dinner speaking there as well. You've done your voiceover work, and as you say, you're writing your book almost in your spare time by the sounds of it right now, Dan. Where can you see this going for you?
Yeah, I've done a little bit of after dinner speaking. I'm available if any clubs are out there, But I've done a little bit for sort of cricket societies and stuff like that. I've spoken on a wide range of subjects, from streaming to, all sorts. But I mean, I really enjoy the commentary. I enjoy the day-to-day stuff, and I'd like to do more of it next year. But where I do that, I don't know, because Surrey was only an interim stuff. Gloucestershire haven't got the money, so I might be prostituting myself out to other counties. I don't know, but you have to go where the work is. Sorry, what's that?
Cayman Islands T10.
Yeah, I'd go there. Nice little trip out there would do me nicely.
Yeah, there's a few people we know who were out there and enjoyed a very nice times. The best with it. But that, joking aside, there is a lot of this going on now, and these franchise leagues are popping up. Are you putting yourself out there for those?
No, I haven't. I mean, the European cricket, I know you guys have been involved in that. I mean, I haven't really, just because I've been sort of so busy with the last 3 years with Gloucestershire or Surrey. So, not really. But if there's work out there, you have to put yourself forward, don't you?
As I said to a ex-colleague of mine this afternoon, we were talking about jobs, and I just said open to offers. Without a shadow, you've got to be there, haven't you? This book's taken a summer to write, basically. I'm sure you've kept copious notes along the way, but more importantly, you can probably remember half of it as you just look back at your diary where you've been and all the stories come back. Is there anything from this book in particular where you just go, right, well, nobody'd have a clue about that until they read the book? Some daft little story that way.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the interviews after the game when you're talking to these guys, but also you don't want to break their confidence either as well. So you've got to be. It's a fine line between the two. I keep a scorebook of every game just for my own notes, so I can go back and say, X got whatever 2 days ago, or partnerships, that type of stuff. So I keep sort of a lot of notes, but it's weird when you go back to games, you like sort of thinking, because some of them you can barely remember, especially the T20s when they're just coming thick and fast. So it can be quite hard to remember what sort of happened and who got a little 70 there in the middle order or whatever, so
I can't remember games I played in, so you look back, even this season, I look back, I got 50 in one of the games, and it's like, I get a 50. And then you do kind of remember once you jog your own memory. But yeah. What's the highlight of this? Have you got a standout moment, that a real champagne moment for this?
Yeah, Gloucestershire winning the Blast.
Yeah, I thought it might be. Yeah.
Gloucestershire winning the Blast and James Bracey taking the trophy up to David Lawrence. I watched that game with Kevin and Angeline Taylor, who are the parents of Jack and Matt Taylor, and one of them lifted the trophy and the other one was man of the match in the final. Fantastic. And it was just, having seen what they'd put into their kids' careers over the years, it was quite an emotional moment, like sort of the reward they got on that night in Edgbaston, and what Gloucestershire have been through as well with their finances and all the staff leaving was it was a huge achievement by the boys.
I like to think that the Premier League cricket world, not us, Hugh, don't worry. I think the Premier League cricket world had a good. They had a bit of a, what would you call it? They helped them along the way at Gloucestershire this year, because a certain Mr. Bracey came and played Premier League cricket a couple of times this year, scored a ton, back in, scored a double ton. They used the Premier League in the right way, I think, Gloucestershire, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They farm their players out to the Whipple. Yeah. So, Chris Dent was playing at Thornbury. Zaman Akhtar came through the Hertfordshire League. He played for Bishop Stortford. So he played one game in May for Bishop Stortford. And then in July, he was playing for England Lions and picking up a fifer. So, but I mean, Premier League cricket, I think, is just going from strength to strength in this country. I think, a few quid's come into it over the last 20 years or so, and I think that helps. But I think it's not far off county second 11 standard now.
We've seen James Bracey. I've been keeping an eye on him over in Western Australia when he's enjoying a winter out there. He's not got too many runs yet, but he had a reasonable knock. But he's in a hell of a side. I forget who he's playing for now.
University, isn't it?
Oh, he's playing for WA Uni, is it? There we go. Yeah, he's Corey Roccaccioli's in his side. Will Basito's in his side. It's got, there's some serious players over there, and I think he's going to come back an even better player because of his winter.
Yeah, Ben Charlesworth's out there as well, I believe. I don't know who he's playing for, but yeah.
It's amazing how many people are out there, is the best way to put it. You
would be, wouldn't you? I mean, if someone's going to pay you to sit in the sunshine for 6 months, I think, we'd all be there.
Definitely. And it's, I think from a writing books perspective, Dan, have you got ideas already for next year? Or are you looking ahead to next year, the year after, what you want? Because I get the feeling from you that you're a bit like me. The head never stops. There's something ticking in there all the time.
Yeah, there is, but I don't know where I'm going to be next year. That's the thing. So, what I dread is having to go back and get a real job. I mean, my background's sort of HR and recruitment, which I have to do in the winter. Mm-hmm. And my dread is having to go back and get a real job. I mean, I'd love just to sort of stay in cricket commentary. So, I mean, I just don't know what next year brings right at this moment. You tend to live from season to season, or even month to month in cricket a lot of the time. So, I mean, things are ticking away, but you just don't know what it's going to be, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens down the line.
Absolutely. Now, when does the book actually come out? Because I know we're putting this out in the middle of November. When does the book actually come out?
It should be out by about the third week of November. It's in edit stage at the end of October. So it should be out, maybe second, maybe third week of November. So we're going to do a launch down in Bristol with Andy Brassington and his Walkers and Talkers event down there. So we're going to do a launch. Yeah, we're going to do a launch on the 4th December, which you guys are more than welcome to pop down to if you want. And we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a great Christmas present. Don't think of it as a stocking filler for your missus. It's her main present this year, all right?
I like that. Yeah, I'm wondering what my missus would say if I put that out there.
I know where it would be shoved. Yeah,
exactly. Don't even go there the slightest. The amount of cricket books I've got already is too many. So that's what you put them on the Kindle now. You see, so if I put them on the Kindle or on the iPad, it doesn't look as bad, does it? Straight away.
No, definitely not.
Not in the slightest. The book's coming out at the end of the mid to the end of November. Perfect for those Black Friday sales at Amazon, and guarantee there'll be loads of people piling in there. Christmas presents left, right, and centre. But more importantly, I would encourage anyone to follow Dan on social media as well. Because number one, you will see when the book's coming out for definite, then it'll all be over there. But he uses a great word in his social media bio. He talks about the musings. I think that sums Dan up perfectly. The musings of Dan Whiting. I think mine should say just the complete ramblings. I think that's that right, Hugh?
Lots of bollocks.
Thank you. I should edit that out, but I probably won't now. But we all like to talk one thing and one thing alone, and we've been doing it tonight. Talking cricket, is there anything better, Dan?
No, not at all. And you're talking about Worcestershire, when you guys went to Worcestershire, that press box at New Road, with those guys in like Frank Watson and John Curtis and people like that. It's like going down your cricket club, but without any like booze on sale in the bar. And it's just people who want to talk about cricket, and it's beautiful. You can just sit there and just, you're actually hoping for rain at Worcester, just like so you can just sort of ramble away cricket with these guys for a couple of hours.
Hang on, can I just say the one ground we should never say you're hoping for rain at is Worcester.
Probably not. No, probably not.
It'll float away. Yeah,
exactly. Poor old Ashley has enough trouble with that place, does he? Rain? But the sentiment's absolutely bang on. I spent time in the press box at Lancashire this year, and I spent time in the press box at Edgbaston towards the end of the season. And just you're right, just those chats and those little bit with various people, over the game. You can't beat that as a career, can you?
No, that's what I love about it. Is just talking to guys about the game. I mean, I'm obsessed with cricket. I've been obsessed with it since I was about 7 years old. And, I can talk cricket all day long. But what's strange is when you've been working in cricket all day is people want to talk cricket with you then in the evening. And sometimes you just don't want to talk about it at all. It's quite nice to sort of go and have a chat with people who know nothing about it and just switch off from the game.
Yeah, I think that's like me going to talk to my wife and mentioning the word cricket, and you just see the glaze coming over her eyes. It's like I can genuinely send her to sleep with it.
Yeah, likewise with my other half, and she doesn't know a lot about the game, and that's the way I like it really, because you can actually sort of switch off.
Most definitely. So let's look forward to next year for one final question, and I've been starting to put some notes down over the last couple of days in terms of new pods we've got coming forward and what we're going to be talking to people about. We can do it with you on county cricket. Predictions. I know it's a long way to go, and there's probably 5 or 6 months worth of transfers and wherever else to go, but county championship, Surrey again?
Surrey again. Yeah, can't see anyone getting anywhere near them really.
Blast?
Blast. I mean, Surrey is strong, Somerset is strong. Be great if Gloucestershire could retain it. But Hampshire have always been there. I'm surprised they didn't qualify for finals day, because I think they've been at 10 out of the last 12 finals days. So wouldn't surprise me if Hampshire are there. But about time one of the northern counties came and won it, I think.
Absolutely. And I'm going to ask you the big one now. Hertfordshire Premier League.
Ooh, now we're talking.
Ooh, depends who buys who. I'm going to go Potter's Bar.
Oh, Potter's Bar to come back and win the title again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know sort of who's left who and, who's signed who for next year. And at club cricket, it can often depend who's like, the overseas you get in and stuff like that for the season. So, but Radler are always strong. Potter's Bar. North Mims had a good year this year as well. So, let's see what happens.
Well,
what about Hertfordshire Division 6A? What do we think?
Well, it won't be Southgate Adelaide because unfortunately they were relegated. So,
well, no, they're into 6A. They've gone from 5 to 6. So
they've gone from 5B to 6A. Yeah, I don't think. I think even staying in 6A might be a result there. But yeah, it's not been a pleasant few years at the club.
Are we rebuilding? Are they rebuilding at Southgate Adelaide?
Yeah, Jenga style, perhaps.
Yeah, I think what they need at the helm there is, we spoke to him a few weeks ago and it'll be coming out very shortly. They need a Bumble, and the way he's getting involved at Sheriff Hutton up in the Premier League up there. Could Dan Whiting be the Bumble there, do you reckon, Hugh? Get stuck back in and this is how we get them going again.
Well, it sounds like he's done every job there already. Exactly. So marketing officer might be the one.
Yeah, I'd love to. I just don't get the time. I mean, I'd love to sort of, go back there and try and help the club get back up to, because I mean, we did play Division 1 at one point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like sort of we had a side which were really good, which I was lucky to skipper at the end of the 90s. And all of us had just grown up together and a load came through and we got up to Division 1. But those days are a long way away, I think.
Well, fingers crossed the days of not hearing Dan Whiting are a lot shorter because commentary will come back in the spring. The stream will be live with your voice and all the other reprobates who you go around the country with. Sam Darling will be on some stream somewhere, I'm sure. Norcross, we can't get Dan anywhere, can we? Norcross is, I think he's bloody everywhere, to be frank. Norcross, isn't he?
Yeah.
You must have had some fun around him this year, without a doubt. And
yeah, I did. I mean, a lot of rain breaks. He's in the room next door, and when he's around because the language, just suddenly deteriorates somewhat. But yeah, he's a good laugh. He's a great guy to have around, and he's good fun. He keeps the spirits up.
Absolutely, and that's what, at the end of the day, that's what your book's all about. It's about how you've kept your spirits up through the year, what you've been going through, the journey that you've had up and down the land to do 80 days worth of coverage throughout the season. And I'll say it very bluntly. Thank you, Dan Whiting, for all of that, because it's great to listen to the stream. And it really is different listening to a stream with a commentator versus without. We keep telling Premier League clubs this, don't we, Hugh?
Yeah, they need.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers now.
Thanks, Dan.
So here today with one of our partners of the Premier League Cricket Show, Kevin O'Brien from Fund It Now. You've heard the advert on our show week in, week out, everyone, but let's hear it from the horse's mouth, literally. Kev, welcome to the show, mate.
Ian, thanks. Good afternoon. How are you? You all well?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Yeah. Hey, listen, we want to talk all about what you guys do and what you guys can do for cricket clubs. Fund It Now. I'm going to start at the very top. You've done the Father Time wall at Lords. You don't get any bigger than that. And just tell us, how did you get that job?
Home of Cricket. Yeah, Home of Cricket. It's an amazing installation, and it allows those fans and supporters of cricket and lovers of the games to connect with, the most iconic cricket ground in the world. I don't think anyone can argue with that. Mm-hmm. And that came around a while ago now, in 2020, and I got introduced to some of the people down there at the MCC. And we found a location near to one of the two new stands that were getting built, the Compton and Aldridge stand. And we have created this walk where there is personalised plaques on the wall which allow fans to celebrate and recognise their affinities about Home of Cricket. At the same time, it tells the story of the 100 most iconic events to have taken place at the Home of Cricket, as voted for by MCC members, Ian.
Absolutely. So it basically, in very quick, simple terms like I am, you pay for a brick or you pay for a plaque, you get your name on it, and you're recognised at the home of cricket. But what we're talking about here is potentially what you guys could do exactly the same at, let's pick a club close to your heart, very nearby, Rainhill. Rainhill Cricket Club, Liverpool and district competition, Premier League, same thing. They've basically got the same thing as the Father Time Wall, but on a slightly smaller scale, haven't they?
They have, and the Fund It Now model that we have, funditnow.co.uk, allows those smaller clubs and venues, and I don't think there's any harm in using that terminology when we're comparing the MCC loads. It allows those smaller clubs and venues to raise funds in the same way that we've done down at the MCC, whilst at the same time allowing their members to have some kind of recognition for their kind donation, and those donations can be contributing towards anything. We might need to refurbish the clubhouse, buy a new mini bus, buy just new equipment, or just for the general upkeep of that club and venue. But as opposed to going out there and just asking for money, go out there, yes, ask for money, but at the same time, give those fans and supporters of the club some recognition, permanent recognition by way of a plaque or a brick on the wall.
Absolutely. I think one of the best things I see about it is the fact that we know in our club cricket world, 98% of club cricket is run by volunteers. 98% of people who turn up on a week-in, week-out basis, they're just people who turn up, do the pitch, do the line markings, clean the changing rooms, clean the toilets. It's all volunteers generally. There's only a very small number of clubs who've actually got these paid people who go in there, which means that by building a wall or a pathway or whatever you want to go into your ground, effectively what Fund It Now can help to fund is a bit of support and a bit of thank you for all those people as well, isn't it?
And most, if not all of these, all of the clubs will have space to do this. Whether that space is external or internal, it doesn't really matter. And all someone needs to do is get in touch with us, send us a photograph of an area that you think you can make one of these installations work within. Send me a photograph, some rough installations. We can come back to you with a visual that says that's what you can create for your members and your supporters. And actually, if you sold that many plaques, you could make X amount of money. Really simple model.
What's the smallest model that you've done so far? The smallest installation, just to give people an idea.
Well, the one at Rainhill was about 40 plaques, so 40 sales that went on that wall, and they generated circa £1,000 from that. That's not to be, that's better than a poke in the eye, if you use a better term.
It is, and I'd say there is not a single cricket club out there that couldn't sell 40 plaques. Absolutely not one. And then I think of some of the, shall we say, small to medium-sized clubs, 100 plaques should be quite easy. When you get to the big clubs, okay, we're not all like Wimbledon who can charge for car parking during the Wimbledon tennis season and make all their money that way, or our friends down at Bath Cricket who they've got a phenomenal facility down there and they don't need this type of money. But I'm thinking of all those clubs like Mickleover Cricket Club, not too far from me. I know they're looking at stuff that they're doing over the coming years, and it could be the perfect way to raise funds for building a new changing room or building a new bar and stuff like that.
People sometimes think, well, how does this work? How much effort do we need to put into this? And the answer is not a lot, because we have a system that will fulfill the orders, take the payments in exactly the same way that the MCC system works, or my Surrey Legends Wall system works down at the Oval. So they work in the same way as that. So there's no paper-based system here, Ian, where people are scribbling messages down, handing them to the club captain and say, sort it out for me. Those messages go through an automated e-commerce site, which will be on brand, have a look and feel of your club. Then I've got a design team who are sitting behind me here in the office who will help create digital marketing assets for you that will be able to be used across a suite of platforms, whether it's your social media or email banners. We create those. We just need you to execute them out to your membership through whatever method that you would be sending communications out.
And if somebody was to jump onto the Fund It Now website this afternoon when they're listening to this pod, how quickly could they be up and running and taking orders?
Half an hour. Literally half an hour. It will take us less than if within that half an hour they've got the energy to send us back some pictures or some images. So I might be slightly ambitious there because it requires them to come back with some information for us. But we can build the website in 15 minutes, literally. Mm-hmm. So we would send somebody a suite of content. We need you to do that, please. If you were to send us that overnight, you could have a system up and running the day after and your digital marketing assets to accompany that.
And as we get into the very end of the season now, and there's one or two playoffs going on, cup competitions and stuff like that, I know from firsthand at my club and other clubs around, we're all getting into that time of year where we're looking at next year already and starting to plan ahead and looking at our 2, 3, 4 year plans. It's the perfect time to be looking at this sort of thing, isn't it?
I think all day long it is. It's the perfect time because whilst there's that general thrust that you would go out to the membership with to say, hey, help support this. What about actually if someone buys it as some sort of Christmas gift for a grandchild who was top scorer for the under-15s or for the captain for that year or whatever it may well be. So yeah, it's a perfect time.
And I'm going to make this promise now. For the first club that signs up with Fund It Now, we've already had a couple of clubs sign up, but the first one that signs up with Fund It Now, after this pod goes out, we, the Premier League Cricket Show, will buy a plaque at that club as well. And we'll put one on there. So that might be 1 out of 40 or 1 out of 100. We'll do that. And just, we want this out there, as many clubs as possible, to build walls, build pathways. People who know me and listen to this pod know that, unfortunately, Kevin's going to smile here. I'm a Liverpool fan. And poor old Kevin's spending a lot of his time at Everton's ground at the moment, the new ground, doing a lot of work there. But as much as he's enjoying that work, he'd love to put more pathways and walls around little cricket clubs around the country, wouldn't you, mate?
Look, it is a very simple solution, Ian. It's risk-free. And look, if we didn't know what we were doing, we wouldn't be dealing with the MCC. Literally. That was a tough nut to crack, but we've got there in the end, and we love us to bits in terms of what we're doing with Father Time Wall. But let's take that model and put it out there across those smaller clubs and venues who need that money. They need that money.
Absolutely. Hey, Kev, great talking about it, mate. Listen, everyone, Lords, Surrey, we didn't even mention the legends at Taunton. There's cricket clubs around the country, big ones that we've got these walls already. There's little ones that Kev and the guys at Fund It Now have done already. But let's get 1 or 2 more, and let's get more funding coming back into the club cricket game, because we all know we all need it, don't we?
It's all about improving facilities and just sort of making sure that those youngsters are getting involved in cricket at the right age.
Definitely. If you want to get in touch with Kev, what's the website again, Kev?
It's funditnow.co.uk.
And if you're not sure about where to go otherwise, just contact me, Ian Livo, at the Premier League Cricket Show. You all know where to find us on socials. We keep pumping it out there. By all means, drop us a line and we'll pass you on to the right people as well. Thanks for your time, Kev.
Ian, perfect. Good to talk. All the best.
Thanks for listening to the Premier League Cricket Show. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes and stay updated on all the latest news, views and discussions from around the cricket's Premier Leagues. And be sure to follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram at TPL Cricket Show on both. Join the conversation, share your thoughts and connect with us and your fellow Premier League cricket fans. And hey, if you enjoyed the show, why not show us some love? Leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast platform, as it helps other potential listeners to find us when they're searching for cricketing podcasts. Thanks again for being part of the Premier League Cricket Show family, and until next time, have a good one.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.